Hello everyone, I'd like to show you my very first creation I submitted to Umpqua Feather Merchants, and that is the Tube Midge. A very simple, easy design, minimal materials and steps. It's also very durable and a versatile fly, whether you're in the cold or the warm seasons pursuing quality trout. Cool thing about this design, starting out with the hook, is I'm a fan of using the new hook with Umpqua, and that is the XT040, the JB Emerger hook. The nice thing about this hook is it has an up eye and an offset hook point, so that way you get a lot of penetration when you're dealing with smaller bugs and larger quality trout. It's really a great design and works very well, sizes 18, 20, 22, and even all the way down to 24. Now the body is very unique. There's a love-and-hate relationship with the body, and I'm going to explain why. The body of this design for the Tube Midge starts with small wire, and you can see it here. The cool thing about small wire is that it's very versatile in how many color selections you can choose from. Next to that, we're going to insert the small wire into clear microtubing. And the advantage by doing this is we're going to give this midge a look as if it's clear and it has segmentation through the body. That's important because if you ever seine midges from the river, you see them in hand. They look clear and they also possess segmentation. That's what this fly and imitation really does represent well. For the head, we're going to have the bead, and behind that we'll just have a simple thread base for a thorax to build up. You can also add a tuft for an emerging midge. You can have a gill tuft coming out the front of the bead. Sky's the limit there. And in addition to the tungsten bead, which we're going to use today, size 1.5, you could use plastic or you could use brass. Really is whatever you prefer as far as designing the fly. And the biggest thing to remember is that you want to make sure that you're controlling depth. I prefer using weighted flies over split shot because it allows your rig to appear more natural. Now the way to insert the wire into the tubing is you want to stab it, just like you'd put tippet through the eye of the hook. We're going to stab the wire into the tubing, and then we'll simply twist the tubing back onto the wire. And when we do this, we're going to create what I call sticks. So I have 1.5 inches or 2 inches of tubing, and inserted into that is 4 to 5 inches of wire. Each one of these sticks will twist up about 3 to 4 midges, and you can mix and match the color to whatever you prefer. We're doing clear and red to look like a red midge in the water. You could do black, you could do copper. You could also do cream and green and make this look like a small caddis pupa, which makes this a very versatile imitation. So to start out at the bend of the hook, we're going to place 2 wraps of wire. But to do this, first I want to pinch opposite side of the wire that we're going to attach. And right at the transition of wire to tubing, we're going to pinch on that with our thumb and index finger. This prevents the tubing from spreading back or sliding back on top of the wire and keeps everything in place. Then at the bend of the hook, I'm going to perform 1 wrap with the wire, 2nd wrap with the wire, and then I'll continue forward with the wire and tubing. And by doing this with loose wraps, I get a nice even segmentation on the body, as you can see there. It really does look like a small midge, and I really do love the segmentation. Now, once we're to this point, we can grab both tag ends, place them to the left and out of the way. The nice thing is, because you're dealing with wire and tubing, they'll move to the left. Then we'll come in with the thread, keeping a taut tag in. I'm simply going to bend that around the hook shank behind the bead, wrapping back towards the bend and wrapping forward towards the bead. And I'm going to go back and forth here a few times and just build up a nice even collar. Now at this point, you can break the thread, which you'll see here, to where it's nice and flush against the hook shank. I warn you, if you break thread, while it looks cool, there is a chance it could fall apart. Remember, we're all human. And the other thing to remember too is I do not recommend attempting inserting the wire into the tubing post-IPA. That's definitely a pre-IPA step. So always keep that in mind for the winter season. So when you're dealing with this step in the tie, you're going to grab the tag end of wire and tubing. We're going to bring this forward. I'm then going to perform 1 loose wrap, a 2nd loose wrap, and then switch to my dominant hand and secure wrap twice. I'll then grab the tag end of wire and tubing, and I'm going to cut that as flush as possible right against the hook shank behind the bead, and I'm going to push that down just to make sure it's all secure. Then at this point, we're simply just going to build up a nice thick collar and black thread. You could also here add a tuft out the back. You could do a gill tuft before going forward. And once we wrap here 3 to 4 times, I'm then going to come back with the whip finish tool. I'm going to whip finish once, whip finish a second time, build up a nice even collar again behind the bead. And the trick here is I'm going to grab the blade of the scissors and I'm going to keep that thread taut and I'm going to slice it like bread below the hook. That's going to allow that thread to lift up and disguise itself against the hook shank. And you'll notice we still have the tag end of wire on the back. All I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to grab the tag end of small wire. I'm going to helicopter counterclockwise until it breaks flush against the hook shank. I'll then grab that small piece of wire and I'm going to dip that into Loctite super glue. And what that's going to do is gives me small droplets of super glue. And that's the reason we leave those 2 tag ends of wire on the bend of the hook, is that's going to help that secure that glue right to the hook shank and make your fly durable. I find that Loctite super glue is the most secure super glue for some of your smaller flies, and it doesn't fall apart, flake off, doesn't break off the hook shank, and it also remains clear. I'll then also, in some steps, you don't have to necessarily do this for every design, but I'll then wipe Loctite super glue on top and on both sides and underneath of the bead. And all that's going to do is just secure this fly down, make it look wet, give it a lot of sheen and shine, and make sure that it's incredibly durable whenever you're fishing it on the water. And the final result is what you see there. The Tube Midge in red. It's available 18, 20, and 22 with Umpqua. Color range is red, copper, and black. And it really is a very versatile and durable fly. I hope it brings you success on the water.